Hi, students. I want to talk to you about what I'd like you to do for Tuesday's reading activity. It's a two-part activity. First, I want you to think about plot. And so your um, learning target for plot is I can explain the plot of a literary text that includes the major events of the story. And then after you work with plot a little bit, I want you to work with theme. And the learning target for theme is I can describe the theme of a literary text. So I did put together a page that has a plot anchor chart and a theme anchor chart to help you as you're thinking through the activities. You can refer to this page to help you. And then also, let's look at the two activities so that you're prepared to work on them. The first activity I want you to complete is the plot activity on Nearpod. So I've already got this pulled up. And we went over the learning target already, which is to focus on the plot, which means that we're going to include major events of the story. So let's get started. The story that we're going to be using is In the Days of King Adobe, which you read yesterday. So you've already got a foursquare on this. So you're already familiar with the story. I would have the story pulled up. I have it pulled up here in HMH. You could have the physical book in front of you, or you could have the digital copy pulled up in front of you. So then, if we go back to the Nearpod, the directions say fill in the plot line below. Hint, think about the major events of the story that lead to the next major event. So we're going to start with the exposition. I know this might be a little blurry and hard to read, but I think that you will be okay because we've done this many times. So the exposition. If you don't remember what an exposition is, you can go to um, our plot, and the exposition is story information like characters, setting, and conflict. So in your Nearpod, you are going to write about the characters. So you could put a C for characters. I'm going to change the color and the size of this. I like red because it stands out. So you don't have to write the whole word out. You could just write C for characters and list them, S for setting, and tell me what the setting is, and um, C for conflict. So let's look at this story. In the Days of King Adobe. So when we look at the first page that talks about there once was an old woman who lives alone and she was very poor. Well, we know right away, we see the word the old woman, and if you've read it, you know the old woman is the main character. So right here, I'm going to write, in fact, I might use a text box because I'm going to write more than one. So I'll write old woman. Now that I've got that word written, I can move my text box down here. I'm going to put a comma. And then I'm going to go back to my story. Notice I'm flipping back and forth. It's not too hard. Got my tabs up already. And as I scan through the story, I remember that young men came and were looking for a place to stay. The old woman said she doesn't have any beds, but she put a blanket out, and the young men were going to sleep in her house. She even fed them. So that's one of my the other characters are the old men, the young men. So I'm going to add that to my Nearpod. The setting, well, I looked at it, but I can show you again. It's in the old woman's house, right? Takes place in the old woman's house. Change the color to red so it shows up better. Okay, and then the conflict of this story, if I go back to my story, they decided to steal from the woman. So the conflict is that the young men are trying to steal from the old woman who is helping them. So I'm going to write that down. Conflict. I'm writing the young men decided to trick the old woman and steal from her. Period. So I have written the exposition, which is also just the story information. The next thing I'm going to do is write the rising action. That is some events that have happened in the story. The climax is the turning point of the story. So if you take a look over here, the climax is when the conflict takes a turning point and is about to be solved. And then the following action is the events that lead to solving the conflict. And then finally, the conclusion is how the conflict is solved. Now, I want you to try the rest of this on your own. After you finish this part, there are 3 questions for you to answer that are geared towards the plot. Good luck and happy plotting.